was why.
Oh, okay. Now it says we're on Facebook.
Yay! So
Yay!
we're live.
Now we've made it.
As usual, we had a few technical issues. Including the heat, we are both melting, particularly me. In fact, you can see sweat, not on my brow, but on my neck.
It's not good, is it?
It's really not good.
Not attractive weather. That's what I'd say.
When we scheduled our How to Sleep Well in Midlife and Beyond Facebook Live, we had no idea that we would be doing it on the very hottest day in the UK ever. So, in fact, the first question was probably, how on earth does anyone sleep in this heat? Anyway, let me introduce you to Emma Ashford, who is standing here, also melting and having an advanced experience of hot flushing. She's not too young to actually have that yet, but she's getting a sort of advanced thing. So you are a sleep expert, and you have helped me do a very wonderful workshop for my members club all about how to sleep well in midlife and beyond. So if you want to see the workshop, go and join the members club, or if you're a member, go and check that out. But Emma has very kindly today offered to come on and answer any questions that you might have. So I'm just going to see if I can get the stream up on my other computer screen. Check that. Oh yes, we are going live. Hooray! Hallelujah. Now there is always a bit of a delay on these things, so
especially when it's warm. Nothing works when it's warm.
Yeah, that was our technique. We blame the heat for not being able to get on at the right time. So if you are watching, do say hello. Tell us where you're watching from. It's always nice to know, and I will keep track of any comments. So we're here today to talk about how to sleep well in midlife and beyond, and when it's hot, and when we are hot, because we're very hot stuff, especially today. Emma, you work a lot with people who have sleep problems, don't you? Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your work?
Yeah, sure. So my organisation is called Sleep Seekers. It's sleepseekers.academy. And I work with people who are struggling with their sleep. So either they're struggling to get to sleep or struggling to stay asleep, spend periods of the night wide awake when they want to be asleep. So all sorts of things, insomnia, not being able to stop the minds going. Menopause is a big one, particularly after menopause. Lots of women struggling to sleep and kind of feeling like, well, can I still blame the menopause, or is this something different? So lots of stuff that comes with it. There can be all sorts of different scenarios that cause it and that are your situation. But I work with anyone who is struggling to sleep for any reason that isn't medical. So, if it's a side effect of medication, that kind of thing, that's a little different. But anyone who is struggling with sleep and it's kind of unexplained, that's what I do.
So, as it is the hottest day in the UK ever,
yeah.
Records again. What thoughts do you have on helping us sleep? One question I've had through is whether or not we should adopt what people do in hot climates and have a nap during the day, perhaps in the heat of the day, to try and, if we can, if say we're working at home or we're not at work, or we've been sent home because the aircon is broken, or whatever it might be. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing about naps is that for some people they work really well, and they're no problem at all. If you can get the right length of time that's right for you, there's no problem with having a nap. And especially, when it's warm, I think we do get quite lethargic and sleepy. But if you have any kind of struggles with sleeping at night, when it's warm, it's slightly different. If it's just because it's warm, that's a bit different. But if you struggle with your sleep on a regular basis, if you feel like you aren't getting enough sleep, that you're laid awake in bed, naps aren't really a good idea. They're very tempting because obviously you want to catch up on some sleep, but they're not a great idea because you're messing with your body clock and your body doesn't know whether it's night or day. And you want to get your sleep at night when you're going to get the best quality sleep. So naps during the day, if you have any struggles with your sleep at all, not a great idea. Depending on your circumstances, they're kind of thought of as not a great idea for most of us. But if you have particular circumstances, if like if you've got young children or that kind of thing, it's normal to want to have a nap. If you work any kind of late hours, that sort of thing. But in the heat, I think you kind of got to get your sleep where you can when it's this warm, to be honest, because you don't have to have a sleep problem to worry. Exactly. Exactly. You don't have to have a sleep problem to struggle with the heat and struggle with your sleep in the heat. It interferes with all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah. And what about when it's not so hot? What tips do you have for making sure that we are able to get some reasonable sleep?
The things that we can do to really look after our sleep are things like making sure that you have a really good wind down routine in the evening. So sleep isn't a switch. It's not we go from busy to just asleep. We need to have it's a process. We need to wind down time to get ourselves into sleep, to get our mind and body ready for sleep. And so an hour before bed or something like that is a good guide to say, have that as time where you kind of put an end to your day and it's seen as the start of your night. So it becomes nice, relaxing activities, calm things. Watching TV or whatever is fine, in my opinion. Just don't make it anything too stimulating if it's going to get your head going, anything like that. So some really good wind down is really important. Treat yourself as if you were treating a child. We wouldn't just dump a child in bed and expect them to go to sleep. It's a process. And there's a wind down that time that comes with that, and we're no different just because we're older. So that's really, really important. There's all the things that are talked about in terms of, making sure that you're not having too much caffeine, making sure that your body chemistry is in a good place. So there's nothing kind of revving you up at a time when you want to be calming down. These are all the things that can just help you to get good quality sleep. Also having some good boundaries in terms of your thoughts and the way that you allow your mind to work. It's really easy to just let your thoughts just keep going, and you get into bed and you're thinking of 100 things you need to do tomorrow and that kind of thing. You need to have some good boundaries around when is the appropriate time to think about things. So putting an end to your day at the start of wind down time, and then any thoughts that come up that relate to anything the next day, you can jot them down until you go to bed, but really then it should be, it's not time to think, it's time to sleep. There's nothing else that's important. The day's finished. A lot of people talk about having a notepad next to the bed and that kind of thing. But for me, nothing is as important as your sleep once you get into bed. So it's really training your mind into none of that stuff matters. It's nighttime and it's time for sleep, and that's all that's important. Yeah. So those things are the things that can help you get better quality sleep, or make sure that you're looking after your sleep. And the other thing is to make sure that you're giving yourself time to sleep. There's so many of us that know we need 8 hours, but get to bed 5.5 hours before we have to get up. And, it just doesn't give us the opportunity to get the sleep that we need. So it's really important to prioritize it.
And why is it that often in midlife and with menopause, we have sleep problems? And what can we do about those?
Please excuse me while I just mop my face.
Well, I think I need to go and just get a towel, actually. I was saying before we came on live that my usually idyllic garden office is literally like a sauna tonight. That's why you can see glowing future. I've got all the doors and windows open, but the sun has been on the metallic roof all day. And even though it's rained and everything, it's still...
So yeah, menopause is obviously a time of all sorts of hormonal fluctuation. There's lots going on there, and hormones can interfere with your sleep, and that is something that is kind of unavoidable. Insomnia can be a symptom of the menopause, as I'm sure you know. As it is with pregnancy, I've had 2 pregnancies and experienced insomnia in both of them.
I think that's really interesting that there's the same thing there when the hormones are...
Yeah, because it's just the hormones going haywire, and it's just the kind of net result of that, really. So there isn't a huge amount that you can do to prevent that from happening. That is unfortunately just one of the joys of being a woman. But what matters is how you handle it when that's happening.
Yeah.
Because I meet lots and lots of women who've got lots of sleep problems that have continued way beyond menopause, or that are worse than I think they need to be, if that makes sense. So it's about recognizing that it's a symptom of the menopause, and that unfortunately it just is what it is, and being really calm about that.
Yeah.
And being, as I know it's not easy, but as sort of relaxed and willing to go with it as possible. I know it's not easy when you feel like, I just want to sleep, but the more frustrated you get, the less sleep is likely to come. And then you run the risk of getting into a real pattern of dreading the nights or worrying about sleep. And then it can start to become something that's a longer term issue. The other thing is to try and make sure that you stay in bed. So again, lots of women tell me about, they were awake in the night and they think, oh, well, I might as well get up and do the ironing, or I might as well, do this, that, and the other. And they don't think they're causing any harm because, well, I'm wide awake anyway. But by doing that, you are interfering with your body clock, and your body starts to lose track of what's night and what's day. It's going in the middle of the night. Your mind can start being active again. And so it's messing all the time with your body clock that your body relies on to sleep. And what happens when you do that is you can fall into a habit, like your subconscious falls into a habit of, it's 2:00, I expect to be awake and doing a job. And when you get to that place, you're in a habit, your mind and body are in a habit. And it means that once the hormonal bit has calmed down and you could be getting your sleep, you're then in a really bad habit subconsciously. And you don't realize that the problem's past. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So keeping all of your routines and structures really solid, having the good wind down time, even if you don't feel like you're sleeping well, making sure that you're staying in bed, all of that stuff, and being as relaxed as possible, all that stuff really matters, so that as soon as the hormone related insomnia passes, your sleep can go back to normal, as opposed to it feeling like a continuous issue. I meet lots and lots of women who will say, I feel like I'm through the other side. I don't have any other symptoms anymore except the sleep issue. Is this still menopause? Is this just how it's going to be now because of the menopause? And in all the cases I've worked with, that's not true. But it's like what we have to do is press the reset button because of, in effect, the damage that was done to routines and the way you thought about sleep and all that sort of stuff during the menopause time.
I think that's reflected in everything to do with menopause, actually. I think the more we fight it, the worse it is. With all sorts of things, whether it be hot flushes and the shame associated with them, and then techniques to reduce the shame also reduces the hot flushes frequency and the intensity of them.
Absolutely.
Things we can do to sort of balance hormones, and obviously HRT is an option for some women, or you can naturally balance your hormones, but sleep is still likely to be an issue, if it's going to be an issue, isn't it?
I mean, that was certainly my experience during pregnancies as well. It just kind of was what it was. It came and went. Some nights were worse than others, and it definitely went through phases. But the thing for me is, the more relaxed you can be, as soon as sleep is able to come, it will come. If you are feeling stressed and anxious about it, the further away sleep is, and so the harder it is. And I'm sure you talk about this a lot, but the more you can just be really kind to yourself about it. It's not easy to be tired. Of course, it's not easy. But there's, like you said, it's about surrendering to it to sometimes. And kind of trusting yourself that you'll get by. Sorry?
Going with the flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, if you struggle to stay calm, then the very most that I would suggest that you do during the night is listen to like a meditation app or audio, and do some breathing exercises, like teach yourself some calming techniques, whatever works for you. That means that you can stay in bed, you can stay fairly still, not kind of thrashing around and getting frustrated, and really help yourself to just, bring the stress levels down as much as possible.
Yeah.
And
what about if it really has become insomnia? And it's not hormone driven? What do you do then? Because you work with people who've gotten to that.
That's where they're at. Yeah. So once you get to that stage, if you're in that place where you can kind of say, well, I'm pretty sure it's not hormones, but I can't get the sleep that I need, and I know that I need more sleep, then that's where you start to need a little bit more input. And that's what I do. I'm a sleep therapist, and I work with people to what I call press the reset button. So it's like resetting your body chemistry, resetting the way that your mind is consciously or subconsciously thinking about sleep, because those two things affect each other. The way you think about it affects your body chemistry, and your body chemistry affects the way you think about it. So you kind of have to work on those two things together, which sounds really intense and really difficult, but actually 6 weeks is pretty much the maximum necessary to do those fundamental bits of work to press the reset button.
I think it's amazing. I think that's
it's not this really long, complex, scary process at all. It's just about having the right things in the right order. Because when we just read a bit on Google here and there and think, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that, I'll try a Himalayan salt lamp, or all these things that are talked about, it's just kind of stabbing in the dark and kind of hoping and not really understanding. But what I do is make sure that we're joining up all the dots and doing things in the right order, and making sure that you understand why you're doing it and what's happening and what we can do to fix it. And once you get those things, that reset button is completely available to the absolute majority of people. And your sleep can get way back on track, more than I think most people think it will. You get your sleep back to normal, what you want it to be. So it's not just feeling like, oh, well, it's the menopause, I've been through the menopause, I must just be stuck with poor sleep now. And I've heard a lot of people be told that by their doctors. And I think that's because there's a general lack of understanding and education with sleep in kind of every level of our society, really. The GPs aren't trained in sleep issues, or certainly not in any depth. Lots of professionals just don't understand it. So people are given quite bad advice, I think, which means that they give up when they really shouldn't be giving up. There's lots you can do about it, but it's about having that joined up approach to really tackle it at all the levels when it's not hormonal.
As is so often the case, and is also the case with HRT and menopause symptoms, you don't want to take sleeping tablets as the band-aid. You want to address the underlying issues that are causing the bad sleep.
Absolutely, yeah. I always say sleeping tablets are like armbands.
Yeah.
They can be really useful. They can certainly have their place, but they should be about helping you to stay afloat while you fix the underlying issue. They shouldn't be just the thing that you rely on, because they can be taken away. Doctors often stop prescribing because there's more and more of a concern about their addictiveness, all sorts of things. It's not something to rely on.
And I remember when we recorded the workshop for the members club, I talked about how my mum had insomnia for years and years, and I just knew my mum just didn't sleep well. And she would be lying awake for hours and hours, and I think maybe, with my own personal experience, maybe my dad snored, so that probably didn't help, but would never have thought to move into another room, and she had another room, she could have done that. It wasn't in fact until my dad was quite ill towards the end of his life that she finally moved into another room. But she could have had it fixed. This was so annoying. It's like it's different obviously, but incontinence, which affects so many women, starting after childbirth, getting worse during menopause, and a lot of women assume that that's it, you just have to cope with leaking, and you don't, because you can actually the stats are that I think it's 85% of women who suffer from stress incontinence can be completely cured with just 6 sessions with a pelvic health physio.
Wow.
Isn't it? This is
Yeah.
the same sort of thing. These things that we accept as part of life, they don't have to, do they?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think there's not enough education out there at the moment with these types of things, is there? You know, we just don't talk about it. And with insomnia, there's such a lot of shame and stigma that comes with insomnia, because people feel embarrassed that they can't do something as supposedly simple as sleep. And people are like, well, just you know, put the TV on and relax and go to sleep. And you're there going, but I can't. It doesn't work. And there's so much shame that comes with that, and so little education on actually going deeper than just that very basic sleep hygiene of avoiding the screens and having a hot bath and the lavender sprays. And, you know, that stuff is very, very surface level. And if you have a real sleep issue, that stuff is not going to fix the problem. That stuff is a sticking plaster on a broken leg. And all it is that you need to go deeper, and you need the right tools and techniques and the right level of support for your problem. But that stuff isn't talked about, and that stuff isn't widely available. And it leaves people with years and years and years of unnecessary sleeplessness. And it's really sad, because it affects so much of your life. Like, sleep is so important.
The more I learn about health and long-term health and well-being, the more I know that sleep is a massive part of that.
Absolutely. It just affects everything.
Why we sleep, isn't there? And it's just sort of like, if you're not sleeping well, you're negating all the good efforts you might be putting in the other parts of your life.
I often describe when I see someone get their sleep back on track, I often describe it, and it literally is like watching someone come back to life, because it's like you realize they were a shadow when you first met them, and then at the end, you know, only a few weeks later, it's just such a transformation. Literally watching the color come back into somebody, it's unreal. And I think people, you know, when it's gone on for years and years, you kind of forget that it's having such an effect on you. Such a big thing.
Well, thank you so much. I've put a link
Very welcome.
to Emma's Sleep Seekers Academy in the notes, in the comments. So do go and check it out. I think you've got a nice new website as well, haven't you? I have, yeah. Looking very nice.
Yeah, thank you. So if there's any questions as well that anyone wants to ask after this, then ask in the comments, tag me. I'll quite happily answer anything that you want to know, or at least I'll try.
That's lovely. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Everybody, I hope you get to sleep tonight in all this heat. Oh yes, I was going to tell you my tips, because I used to live, my tips for sleeping in the heat. I'll just do that quickly. Because I used to live in China a long time ago, and back then there wasn't any air conditioning where I was living. So going to bed with your hair wet is quite a good tip. Having a wet flannel on your pillow, it's going to be really cooling on your face. And I don't know if anybody has those rattan beach mats anymore, but when it got really, really hot in Shanghai back in the day, we didn't sleep on sheets, because those they make you very sweaty and hot. We used to sleep on rattan mats. And those that you can, if you have a beach mat like that, you could try putting that on your bed and sleep on that instead.
Like the air can circulate, I guess.
Much cooler, and sweat is not soaking into the sheets and then getting all sticky and horrible. So those are my little tips for sleeping in the heat.
I think the cold wet flannel is a great one. I think I used that. We had a heat wave when I was pregnant, and I just was melting. And I used to put it on my chest, and that really helped me.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And
very welcome.
Please, if you have any questions, anybody, just ask them in the comments, and I'll circle back through them and pass them on to them. All right. Thanks then. Bye-bye now.
Bye.